The first time he kissed me, he tasted like bourbon and regret. The second time, it was desperation wrapped in silence, as if every word he wanted to say was forbidden. I knew it was wrong to want him. He was my doctor, my alpha, the man I wasn't supposed to touch yet, the man I had secretly loved for years. In a city where rules were written in invisible ink, where alphas weren't supposed to fall for omegas like me, his presence became my only exception. New York never slept, but I often wished it would. Nights stretched long in the ER waiting room, the smell of antiseptic and coffee clinging to my clothes, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like judgment. And then he would appear, Dr. Nathan Hale, the man whose name alone was enough to make my chest tighten. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a kind of sharp-edged beauty that made people trust him instantly, Nathan was the perfect alpha. Respected, untouchable, always in control. Yet I knew another version of him. The one who knocked on my apartment door after midnight, his white coat left behind, his hair undone, his eyes searching for something he swore he didn't need. I shouldn't be here, he would always start. And yet he always stayed. I wasn't naive. I knew he didn't belong to me, at least not the way I wanted. His world was filled with hospital corridors, medical conferences, and a family legacy he carried like a chain. Mine was quieter, smaller. A bookstore clerk who spent more time with paperbacks than with people. But every time Nathan's hand brushed mine, every time his breath ghosted against my neck, it felt like the universe had written us into the same story, even if he kept trying to erase the ending. That night, the rain outside hammered against my apartment windows. I had been lying awake, counting the seconds between thunder, when the knock came. 3 sharp raps. Urgent. Familiar. When I opened the door, there he was. Soaked to the bone, his white shirt plastered against his body, his tie hanging loose like a surrender flag. His eyes, God, those eyes were darker than I'd ever seen them. Nathan? I whispered, my throat tightening. Eli. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing as if he was trying to force down the truth. I can't, his voice broke, raw. I can't keep staying away from you. My heart slammed against my ribs. For years, I had lived in the shadows of his denial, but in that moment, the wall between us cracked. You don't have to, I whispered, stepping back to let him in. The way he kissed me that night was different, wilder, like he had finally given up pretending. His hands cupped my face, trembling, as though I was both his salvation and his sin. When his lips found mine, I tasted the storm outside, the desperation he carried, and the unspoken love he tried so hard to bury. For the first time, he wasn't the doctor. He wasn't the alpha who belonged to a world larger than mine. He was just Nathan, the man who loved me enough to break his own rules. But love in our world was never that simple. Because the moment the morning came, reality always returned. I met Nathan years ago, long before midnight visits and secret kisses. Back then, I was just a college kid who fainted in the middle of a lecture hall and woke up in the ER with him leaning over me. His voice was calm, steady, reassuring, an anchor in the chaos. I had no idea then that the stranger pressing a stethoscope to my chest would become the one who set my heart racing in ways I couldn't control. I told myself it was just a crush, nothing more, a silly fantasy about the doctor who saved me once. But when fate kept throwing us together, when my bookstore was near the hospital, when his coffee breaks sometimes led him right to my counter, when he smiled at me in ways that felt too real to ignore, I knew it was more. And yet, Nathan never let it become more. You're an omega, Eli. And I'm. His jaw would tighten. I can't risk everything. You deserve better than someone who can't even admit what he feels. I hated those words. Not because they hurt me, but because I saw the truth in his eyes. She wasn't protecting me. He was protecting himself. In a society that still whispered about traditional pairings, where alphas like him were expected to marry certain kinds of omegas, where appearances mattered more than happiness, Nathan was trapped in a cage of his own making. And I was the one he reached for in the dark, the one he let himself love only when nobody was watching. It should have been enough. But it wasn't, because every time he left my bed before sunrise, every time he looked at me with longing and then walked away, a little part of me broke. And yet, no matter how much it hurt, I couldn't stop loving him. The day everything changed began like any other. The hospital was chaos, the city unforgiving, and I was shelving books in the store when the news came. A shooting, multiple victims. Nathan's hospital flooded with patients. I didn't hear from him for hours, but when I finally did, it wasn't a call. It was him, standing in front of my bookstore after midnight again, his hands still trembling from holding lives that slipped through his fingers. "I lost someone today," he whispered, his voice cracking. "A kid, 17. He looked at me like I could save him. And I couldn't. I reached for him without thinking, pulling him into my arms. His body shook against mine, all alpha strength stripped away, leaving only a man who was tired of carrying the world. And then he said the words I never thought I'd hear. "Eli, I don't care anymore. About the rules. About what people will say. About my family. I can't live like this. Not without you." The bookstore was silent, the only sound the distant hum of traffic outside. My heart pounded, my throat tight. "Then don't," I whispered. "Stay. Stay with me, Nathan." And for the first time, he did. But happy endings don't come easy, not in stories like ours. Because love might break chains, but it also invites battles. And when the world found out about us, when Whispers turned into headlines, when his career and family and reputation were thrown against the fire, Nathan and I had to decide if what we had was strong enough to survive. And deep down, I already knew my answer, because I had loved him in silence for years. I could love him through the storm too. When the world discovered us, it didn't explode in fire, it cracked slowly, painfully, like glass under too much pressure. First came the whispers in the hospital. Nurses glancing when I showed up with coffee for Nathan, their hushed voices echoing down hallways. Then the articles. Dr. Hale scandal. Renowned alpha surgeon linked to Omega bookstore clerk. The headlines didn't care about our hearts. They only cared about scandal. Nathan's father called him a disgrace. His colleagues avoided him. Patients' families questioned whether he was fit to lead. And yet, Nathan never once let go of my hand. We sat on my couch one night, both of us exhausted, the glow of the city bleeding through the blinds. His head rested against mine, his hand gripping mine like it was the last tether keeping him steady. "I could lose everything, Eli," he whispered. His voice was raw, cracked. "The hospital board is already talking about suspension. My family," his voice broke. "They'll never forgive me." I turned his face toward me. "Then let them. Let the world hate us if they want. You've spent your whole life carrying their expectations, Nathan. What about what you want?" His eyes softened, searching mine, as though the answer had always been there. "I want you." And for the first time, I believed him without doubt. But belief didn't make the road easier. There were protests outside the hospital. Angry words thrown at him as he entered each morning. "Traitor. Shame. Weak alpha." It broke me to hear them, but Nathan faced it with a strength that amazed me. And yet, there were days I caught him in the dark of my bedroom, his hands trembling as though all that strength had been stripped away. He would stare at me, silent, as if memorizing my face in case it was the last time he'd be allowed to look. "Promise me," he whispered one night, his breath shaking against my neck. "Promise me you won't leave, even if I lose everything else." I cupped his face, tears burning my eyes. "Nathan, I've loved you in silence for years. I'm not going anywhere." The breaking point came on a rainy Friday morning. Nathan was called into a board meeting. I sat in the waiting room for hours, the clock ticking louder than my heartbeat, the rain blurring the city outside. When he finally emerged, his face was pale, his jaw tight. "They want me gone," he said simply. I stood, my chest tightening. "You mean suspended?" His eyes met mine, heavy with defeat. "No. Fired. Effective immediately." The words cut through me like glass. This hospital wasn't just his job, it was his life, his purpose, his dream. But instead of anger, instead of despair, Nathan did something I didn't expect. He smiled. "They took the hospital," he whispered, stepping closer, his hand finding mine. But they can't take you. And right there, in the middle of that sterile hallway, under the fluorescent lights that had witnessed his entire career, he kissed me. Not the desperate, hidden kind of kiss he used to give, but one full of defiance, full of love, full of a promise. People gasped. Cameras flashed. The world saw. And for once, Nathan didn't let go. The fallout was brutal. He lost friends. His father disowned him. For weeks, our names were chewed up and spit out by gossip columns and news channels. But in the quiet spaces, in the warmth of our small apartment, something beautiful grew. Nathan laughed more. He cooked with me even if he burned the eggs half the time. He sat in the bookstore, reading while I worked, his presence filling every corner of the shop with light. For the first time, I saw him not as the doctor carrying the weight of the world, but as a man free to love without chains. And I realized I wasn't just loving the Alpha Doctor anymore. I was loving Nathan, the man who chose me. Months passed, and slowly, the noise died down. People grew tired of the scandal. New headlines replaced ours. The protests ended. Life became quieter, softer. But the true turning point came one evening in spring. We were on the rooftop of my building. The city spread out before us, the sunset painting the sky in gold and crimson. Nathan had been oddly restless all day, his hands fidgeting, his eyes darting like he was holding something back. Finally, he turned to me, his expression more serious than I'd ever seen. "Eli," he began, his voice low, steady, but trembling at the edges. "For years I ran from what I felt. I denied you. I denied myself. And still you stayed. You stayed even when I didn't deserve it." My throat tightened, my heart pounding as he reached into his pocket. And then, in the golden light of the fading sun, Nathan knelt. "I don't have a hospital anymore. I don't have my family's approval. But I have you, and that's all I need. So will you," his voice cracked, emotion breaking through, "will you marry me?" Tears blurred my vision, the city lights shimmering behind them. My chest ached with so much love it hurt. "Yes," I whispered, my voice breaking. "God, yes, Nathan." He slipped the ring onto my finger, his hands trembling, his eyes wet. And when he kissed me, it wasn't desperation, it wasn't regret, it was everything. A future, a home, a love we had fought for with every scar, every tear, every defiance against a world that said we couldn't. The wedding wasn't grand. Just a rooftop, some string lights, a few friends who had stood by us. But when I looked at Nathan, standing there in a simple suit, his eyes soft and full of love, I didn't need grandeur. I just needed him. And when we said our vows, when his hands slid into mine and stayed there, I knew the truth. All those years of silence, all those nights of stolen kisses and hidden love, they had led us here. To a love no longer hidden, no longer denied. Because Nathan Hale, the Alpha Doctor who once swore he couldn't love me, had chosen me for the rest of his life. And I, Eli, the boy who once loved him in secret, finally got to love him in the open. Forever. The storm had passed. The city buzzed on. And in the small world we had built, bookstore shelves, late-night coffee, quiet mornings tangled in sheets, we were finally free. Free to love. Free to live. Free to be us. Together. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.